Okay, welcome to another podcast. If you are watching this video, then either we've discussed something or you've talked to Dr. Z or someone else with our group, or you found us randomly. But today's topic is going to be on just the real basics of ketosis, how you do it, what it's about. Most people have tried it before, they've heard about it, or you probably remember, depending on your age, the Atkins diet was a real big fad for many years. Ketosis is essentially similar to the Atkins. It's just, I think, a little bit more refined, more modernized, because there's a little bit more science that goes with it, I guess you could argue. Again, the point isn't to argue with that, so don't go there. So what we're going to do, we're just going to be real quick, and I'm going to show you just about essentially why do you want to do it. You probably already have a reason, but this is just going to give you the basics of where you're going to start, what are you going to start to do. So you're going to obviously have goals. That's why we do anything in life, because we have goals to change something. So the goal for this is, how do you get into nutritional ketosis? Not just into ketosis. We want to get into nutritional ketosis, which is ultimately going to be somewhere we want to get our bodies to adapt to. So what is ketosis? Very simply, ketones are byproducts of fat metabolism. And so the goal is to get the body to prefer fats to break down for energy rather than carbohydrates. So it's very important for most people. The three main reasons you'd be doing this would be either weight loss, blood sugar issues, and then also brain-related things. So they all ultimately probably overlap, but ketosis is very good for brain inflammation. It's good for brain trauma. As we get older, it's good for memory issues. It's a good thing for most brains. Most brain problems, let's say dementia, Alzheimer's, are usually blood sugar problems, so there's a little overlap. If you're doing it for weight loss, well, then you probably have a little bit of a blood sugar problem, or you've eaten too much or some lifestyle things. Ketosis is very good to lose weight. And then it's also very good just for biomarkers, lowering your blood sugar, lowering your blood pressure, just in general, getting your body functioning in a different state. And so one of those three, or a combination, are why you're watching this video and why you'd be considering to do this. If you have done the genetic work with us or through somebody else, that would be something that's pushed it too, is when we look at the genetics and we look at how does your brain function, how's your blood sugar, a lot of times that's when people realize, hey, this might be something really good for me to try. And then when you do it, you feel really good. So why would you not want to do this amazing thing? Well, there are contraindications. There are some genetic problems that you don't want to do ketosis. There could be some blood sugar issues, let's say diabetes type 1. Ketosis is usually not good. You may have heard of ketoacidosis. You hear in the news sometimes. That's extremely high levels of ketosis. It can be triggered by drugs and all kinds of things. That is not at all what we're talking about here. This is a nutritional ketosis, which is a very low ketone level. It's just getting your body into a mild using fat for energy state. So that's why we would do it. You already have that. So what do you want to do now? The first step is you got to do prep work. If you're going to do this the proper way, one of the problems with the Atkins diet and such was people just say, oh, I'm just supposed to eat a lot of fat and I cut out my carbs, and did I lose weight? And I had people back in the day, 20 years ago, they put cheese on bacon, and it didn't matter what it was, what kind of fat. It was just as long as it's fat. And it was kind of a way to be gluttonous. That's not what this is. This is eating smart. This is getting your metabolism to change. So what you need to do is you need to document that. So this is a sheet that if you've done this through our office, or I can give it out, I'm sure at some point I'll post it somewhere. It's very basic and simple. It's just an online sheet. And in this case, this is when I started doing the ketosis on kind of a higher level of studying. I would check the date, you'll see here, and then my blood pressure and the time of the day and what was my weight and the exercise I did. And then I had blood sugar, blood ketones, breath. And then the big one over here, which isn't in because it's a lot bigger, is notes, which is very important. That's the most important part. As you do this, you're going to learn about your body, you're going to learn about your metabolism, and you may find one day your weight goes up or your weight goes down, or your blood pressure's up or down. Why? If you know why, that's going to help you learn who you are. Is it you haven't exercised in several days? Is it you did eat something that you really shouldn't have, and that's what bloated you in that? Is it stress? Is there you dealing with a lot of stress, or you're not sleeping? All of these things go in. So the better you track yourself, the better you're going to get a result, and the less mistakes you're going to do. So prep work is extremely important. The next thing you need to do is go spend a little bit of money. And the money we got to do is we want to measure our ketones, because we want to know, are we actually in ketosis? A lot of people will do the diet and they maybe never enter it, or they go in and out of it. In the very beginning of this, our first goal is to get your body into a ketose metabolism. And so there's three major ways we test this. They're actually testing different things. They're byproducts of breath, urine, and then blood is actually blood ketone levels. But the three you have here, the cheapest by far, is going to be the urine strips. Here's $6 for 125 of them. You essentially just, when you got to pee, you pee on the stick, and then you wait 45 seconds, and you see, does it change color, and to what color it does. The next one, which is actually in the long term the easiest and probably the cheapest, is doing a breathalyzer. This is easy because if you're tracking this on yourself, you don't have to change out the mouthpieces every day. It's $49 and then you just pay for batteries. I've found personally that as long as you're not doing experiments like after exercise or carbs or doing something you might have done, these are usually pretty similar numbers, so you don't have to do both. I started with the strips, and I went to the breathalyzer, and then I went to the N one, which is this bottom one here, which is the Keto Mojo. That's a particular company. They have other ones out there, which is blood. So you got to prick your finger and do a little drop of blood. What I like about this unit, for $45, it'll test both your blood sugar and your ketone levels, which is great, especially if you're doing this because you have kind of that insulin resistance. If you got blood sugar problems, or even people losing weight, you might want to know what your blood sugar is actually doing. The only drawback, this one actually, by the way, also hooks up to your smartphone with Bluetooth and has all kinds of nice little gadgets of tracking. The only problem is that it is the most expensive by far. And the reason is those little strips are one-time use strips. The strips are about 50 cents a piece. So in the beginning, if you're testing a couple days a week, 5 days a week, it's $1 a day. Over time, once you get into an adapted state, you don't have to be that controlling about it. You're going to know you're in your state. You're going to learn your body, and you don't have to track all the time. You're going to want to only track when, let's say, you've done something you shouldn't have, or you're playing around, or you're trying to really learn something about maybe particularly what food or what combinations or if certain fats are better than others. That's really when you're going to need to do those. So you need to get one of these for sure. In most people, I just say just start with the strips or get the breathalyzer right up front if you know you definitely want to do it. If you don't have a blood sugar problem and you really hate pricking yourself, then don't worry about the last one. I do all three just because I'm trying to get this data for you for my other podcasts too. So how do you do it? Well, it depends. There's mainly three ways. What we want to do is we want to get your body into a state of ketosis, meaning your body suddenly is using up its carbs and says, I need energy, I'm going to use fat. If you have higher blood sugar, the first two you can do. The easiest one, probably for most people, is they do what's called intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting is when you start to eat within a small window of the day, 8 hours, preferably 6 hours. So from 12 to 6 p.m., that's when you eat during the day. Other than that, you don't eat. So you're essentially fasting the other times. That's going to start for some people to potentially even put them into ketosis. But what you can do there, it's going to start to change your mentality of a metabolism of, I must eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner. I must do this. I must do that. Because a lot of people, especially on the higher blood sugars, insulin issues, they don't need to do that. They could eat one meal a day theoretically. So that's going to be for some people is the intermittent fasting to start. And so what you can do is you can start intermittent fasting, similar diet to what you have now, and then slowly just gradually change your diet. Slowly just change your diet into much higher fat, much lower carbohydrates. And we'll talk about it in 1 second. For the other people, which is the fastest way to get in, but again, you want to be healthy enough to do it, is doing a water and salt fast. And this is all you do is drink water and some salt until you're into ketosis, which for some people can be 2 days, it can be 3 days. I haven't yet seen 4, but anything's possible depending how insulin resistant. You want to be healthy enough for this. I've had people try this on their own and they throw off their electrolytes and they're in the hospital. It's mainly they just needed the salt. But if you can handle it and you're healthy enough, this is by far the fastest, easiest way to get yourself into ketosis. Then the third would be for people that are low blood sugar, hypoglycemic people, or if just your lifestyle doesn't fit that you can eat that way. If you need to eat multiple meals a day with your kids or with, technically you don't have to do that, but just there's certain lifestyles and certain jobs, you really probably need to eat regularly. So in that case, you would do that. You just would change your diet. You would just change where you're eating much, much lower carbs and proteins and a much higher fat diet. And so that's really what it is figuring out which are you going to start with, which is going to be your method of getting you into ketosis. So what's your diet? Your diet is very low carbs. It's 20 to 40 grams of carbohydrate a day. Some sources say up to 50, but again, you want to start low to get yourself into that phase until you learn your body. Then it's not a high paleo protein diet. Your body can turn some of the protein into carbohydrate fuel. So the real key is shifting to where you just get a lot more of your calorie intake from fats. So you're going to be eating a lot of vegetables. You're going to be eating lean meats. You're going to be similar to how a Mediterranean diet would be or a Paleolithic. You're just going to be, it's the ratios. And you're going to be doing a lot more oil. You're going to be wanting about 75% of your diet to be fat. It's very, very easy to do. All it means in my diet, I eat pretty clean, was I eat my vegetables, but I use extra oil. At the end of cooking, I use more oil, or I eat much more avocados and more olives. You could, if you made a shake or a smoothie in the morning, just add some MCT oil or olive oil. It's very, very easy to shift to having more fat. How much do you eat? You eat if you're hungry. And that's the wonderful thing about this is you really don't have to pay attention to how much, did I eat enough today? That if you're hungry, you're going to eat. And if you're not hungry, then you don't necessarily need to eat. So you eat to satiety. The biggest thing I think people make a mistake in the beginning is it is going to change your mineral content. You are going to dump salt a lot more than normal. So you're even calcium, magnesium, but sodium particularly, you're going to need a lot more of that. As I started to do this, I was eating exponentially more salt than I ever have in years, and my blood pressure went down and has been amazing since then. So it's one of those things, it's just a shift of your brain of what your body's doing, but it will shift your mineral needs, so you're going to need to do that. And of course, hydration is going to be a big deal because the ketones, especially in urine, it's thick and on your kidneys, and you need to keep yourself flushed. So that's just another side effect. So this is your key. Your key is just to start with planning and then get yourself into ketosis. Once you're in ketosis, the goal then is to keep doing it until your body makes that shift, which again can be 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. It just depends. It's not this hard of a diet to do because once you're in ketosis, you want to stay there. When I first did it, I'd be checking all the time and I think, did I do this wrong? And it was a little anal retentive in sometimes, but then I started to realize, okay, no, I'm good. And that's what it is. You also want to test at the same times. If you exercise, your ketones can go way up. If you were to drink some alcohol, and those are in my other podcasts, try not to do that stuff in the beginning because again, you're only risking throwing yourself back out and having to do it again. But this ultimately is your key. The other keto topics, of course, can you cheat? That we've got, net carbs, figuring that out. That's a big one. Alcohol, I've done a lot with figuring that out and reading about what different sources say. And then how to stop. This is another important one I just want you to put in the back of your head. If you're going to do this, whether it's for short term, for weight loss, whether it's long term, you're going to change your metabolism. How you come back out of it is important too. You don't want to get your body to shift into it doesn't use carbohydrates, and the next thing you're just going to go and have a Coke and a large pizza and macaroni and cheese or noodles, probably without all the fat. That's going to cause potential blood sugars, and your body's going to rebound a lot too. So you're going to lose a lot of your goals. So I hope this helps. I hope this starts you in the path. Again, if it's not me, whoever your source is for helping you with this, read up on it, do a good job. The goal of this podcast are to get you successful in it and understanding the why. But again, the key is just track in the beginning. Once you learn yourself, it's very, very easy, and there's lots of benefits from doing this. So I hope you liked it. Again, ask questions if I can help. I'm happy to do so. Take care. Have a good night.